Hey everyone, it is Danielle Marie from The One Realty here in Austin, Texas. If you're hearing me, let me know, I say in the comments. But we're here to talk today about what is going on in the Austin real estate market. So I've been going out there, I've got buyers, I've got sellers, and we're starting to see a little bit of a trend. We're starting to see the Austin real estate market pick up. So today we're going to talk about week over week, what is happening with our listings. We're going to talk about where we compare to last year. Are we seeing more pendings, less pendings? We're going to look at January's data. Did we absolutely steal the show in January, or are we a little behind? And then finally, we'll just do this up front. We'll talk about inventory. What is the inventory like in the Austin real estate market? So first and foremost, I've been going out, I've had buyers. I've had multiple buyers this year already have houses that have multiple offers. So when we go in, we take houses, we take a look at the houses, we're going to write an offer on a house, and we hear back from the seller's agent. Hey, just want to let you know we received an offer. I had one this past week, 4 offers. My client went about 3.5% over list price. I found out from the real estate agent, the listing agent, that the actual person that won the deal was over 10% over asking, which is really weird. It was kind of listed low, but that was a big number. I haven't seen that number yet, and I don't think we're necessarily going to see that number, but I just want to give you some feedback on data I'm seeing. Now, overall in Austin right now, I am going to share my screen, and we're going to talk a little bit about what our inventory looks like. So if we're looking at our inventory overall in Austin, I love to dig into data, love to look to see, hey, what is happening? So right now in all of Austin, this is data from today. There's about 5.22 months worth of supply. So that means if no new listings hit the market, then in less than 6 months, everything would technically be sold if we kept the same amount of buyers and same interest. If we look year over year, how did we perform in January of this year to January of last year in regards to the number of listings that came live? Well, we're actually down about 15% for the number of new listings coming to the market. If we look at the under contracts, we're up about 6.9%. Now, Austin, you can't look at Austin overall. Sometimes you'll see people on social media and they'll talk about Austin in general. They'll talk about Austin Metroplex. Austin Metroplex, you are completely apples and oranges. You've got multi-million-dollar houses, then you've got $150,000 lots of land that are out there. You need to look at the overall picture. So over here, you're going to see like a little graph of Austin over here, and that's kind of our heat map, and it shows pricing and where it's the hottest. As you get red, you get hotter. So in 78746, the highest sales price, the $1.795 million. And then we can go all the way to our dark green, and we're looking at $285,000 if we go out to 78725. That being said, if we are checking out our months of supply, so if we look at the months of supply in Austin right now, you're looking at our months of supply. We are hitting around, it depends on what price bracket that you're looking at. So you're seeing anywhere from 3 months of supply at this 0 to 199,000, all the way up to months of supply for 1.4 million and above is at 7.8. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that 7.8, this is kind of refreshing. We were looking at 1.4 plus, so we're seeing multi-million-dollar houses. We were looking at that inventory at like 14 months, not even a year ago. So this inventory has significantly, I say, gone down. Part of it's also about seasonality. We don't see as many people listing their homes in February at this price point. We're going to see this go up as we get towards summer months. Additionally, we also have houses that have been taken off the market that are going to go back on the market probably in a few months. So right now they're in there's private networks of houses. So if you're looking in like Terrytown, parts of Westlake, you're looking at different areas, Pemberton Heights, you might not necessarily see the houses that you want if you're moving to Austin just by looking on Zillow, Realtor.com, different sites like that. There's off-market sites where these houses do exist. So if you're looking for that, reach out and we can discuss. That being said, you can kind of see our wide range of houses. This is not surprising because when we start getting into the data, like having 8 months of supply at this price point, when we start talking about the median list price. So Overall, we're seeing a healthy amount of supply in Austin. We didn't have as many new listings come on the market this year in January, but that also can be because we're seeing homes relisted and homes that didn't sell, maybe they rented out instead. With that, without further ado, we are going to hop into our week over week analysis of Austin, and we're going to kind of see what does the number say? What does the data say about what is happening in Austin, Texas? So I'm going to share my screen, and we are going to talk. Someone loves to talk about my Excel sheet, but I'm an Excel nerd. I'm a data nerd. I like to look at what is happening in Austin. So that being said, we're going to hop over here and we're going to see what does our active listings look like. So we've got 2,143 listings. And so if we look at where we were about 2 weeks ago at the end of January, 83 more. So that was a good little increase. Nothing much has changed with our average price. So we're looking at 1.1 million for our average. Our median stayed exactly the same at 645,000. That does not mean it sells at that price. That means that is just the list price. We are also seeing average days on market and median days on market go down. So we're looking at a little over 2 months for your median, over 3 months for your average. We're going to see it go down as we see new listings come on the market. Also, if we see a lot of buyers buying, but really when buyers are buying, if buyers are buying and the days on market drops down, and that's what we're going to see, that means there's active buyers that are waiting, meaning they're looking for the one. They're looking for the right house to come on the market. And as soon as it comes on the market, they are snapping it up. And we'll talk about that when we look at our pending data. Also, the number of active listings with a price reduction. So 930 had a price reduction. That's about 43% of our active listings. That being said, if we traveled back to like where we were at our worst point last year, we were over like 65%. We really saw price drops really start in like March, April. But if we start seeing a dramatic increase in price reductions, that means that buyers have maybe pulled back. That's also indicated by our days on market. So for a seller right now, so we got to look at it from two perspectives. If you're a seller, you want to see days on market go down because you want to see that there's either less inventory or houses are starting to move. If you're a buyer, you like to see those numbers go up because that means that you have a little bit more negotiating power when you're on a house. As far as new listings, so you're going to see this dramatic increase. We saw 102 pop up this past week. Not surprised too, because we had that cold snap, that cold freeze, and I think sellers did not list their house. That is normal that we see during maybe it's a really cold week, sellers choose to pause. We also see typically holiday weekends, which we're about to hit on to, we kind of see it dive down a little bit with listings and we'll see it pop back up next week. That being said, you can see our average price point of what came on the market is lower than what our median is. Now, we can't look at data in a vacuum. I also like to say, hey, where's the broader picture? Great, I'm comparing week over week. It is a little bit apples to apples, but let's make it, instead of like a gala apple to a Honeycrisp, let's make it two galas. So what we're gonna do is we are gonna look at where we were in 2025, February 12th of February in 2025 compared to today. So if we look at our month over month and we look at 12 or year over year right here. So if we compare our numbers to 12 February, we have 153 more listings. And check this out, our average price is down by 100,000. Our median price is down by 50,000. That's huge. We also see though that our days on market are a little bit higher right now than last year, but that's also because by 5 and 4 days, not too terrible, but that's also because we didn't have the best fall season. The last year was really rough in real estate. When we talk about like the total number of sales, if you were a buyer that took advantage, congratulations, you did great. You'll also see that the number of houses with a price reduction, we had more houses with a price reduction. Right now we're about 43%. Last year we're at 46%. So interesting enough that we see a few houses that don't have not as many houses have price reductions this year compared to last year. The other thing that we'll hit on is where are we with interest rates? Well, last year, and I have it down here, last year we were at a 7.13% on the 12th of February. Today, we're at like a 6.1. So almost over a full percent less. So that will be very, very enticing to see how does this continue to align as we head later into the buying season? Because typically buying season really starts in February, but March is when we see like our full out push with buyers. That being said, let's take a look at where we are for pending. So I'm going to take this down. We're going to talk about week over week, and then we are going to talk about where we are month over month. So if we look at pending, listings on hold, this is the houses that have like come off the market. 68 houses came off the market this past week. Not a dramatic increase as far as ones that were hold, withdrawn, or expired. I really use this data a lot in the fall because it shows that, hey, we're taking listings off the market. We're not really seeing as much of that happening going into the spring market. But if we look at pendings, so pendings compared to 2 weeks ago, we're up. 58 more houses are pending this week. Our number of listings that went pending, so if I look at Wednesday of last week to Tuesday of this week, we had 212 houses go pending. And let me tell you, I am seeing some multiple offers start to happen, but that also means a lot of times it's happening with new houses hitting the market that are priced correctly, and there's buyers out there waiting, and when they see it, they snatch it. So that being said, I like to look at pendings, kind of where we stand this year. So if you're seeing, here's our weekly pending and where we are. This past week, we had 212. Last week, 213. We'll probably see our 212 number go up. They're not supposed to, but there's some agents that don't turn a house to pending until after the option period or earnest, or they've done something where technically they're supposed to turn it pending right away per our requirements with our MLS. So sometimes we see a little bit of a delay, a little bit of game there because they don't want their house to go on the market, be pending, fall through during the option period, and then come back on as a stigmatized property, meaning there's a reason it fell out and it makes buyers go, okay, what happened to that house? Why did it fall out of sale? So with that being said, some great strong numbers here, and you're seeing our interest rates. We are in the low sixes. We've dipped down a little bit, got close to 5 at the beginning of January. Now, if we go back to last year and we're looking at January and February of last year, this is where it really shows that we're probably going to have a little bit stronger of a market if our interest rates and everything kind of stays the same. So we were just looking and we were like 200, 213, 212. If we look at last year, we are in like the 160s, 190s. We don't hit over 200 until this, I say halfway through the second week in March, or first week in March. So right at that kind of first week in March, that's when we saw buyers really start to come back. But that's also when interest rates kind of dove down a little bit, that we see it right here. So with that being said, we are seeing an uptick in pendings. If we pull over here and we look at, hey, where were we last year? 826 were pending. We are looking at 817, so a fewer, like a little bit less. But I think that also may be kind of some agent gameplay. We're not seeing all of it there. What we're also seeing though is we are seeing our price point is less this year. So 819 was the pending, 819,000 was the pending price last year. This year we're looking at 786 for a median and 599 for an average. So prices are lower than last year. So if you're a buyer and you're looking out there, pay attention. If you were a seller and you didn't sell your house last year and you're listing your house again and your house is listed higher than it was last year, you really, really need to dive into the data to see if it supports it in your neighborhood and your demographic for that area, based on your square footage, based on your renovations, based on the condition of the home. If you need that analysis, reach out and we can talk about that. Also, this is the big, like, my buyers are out there, buyers are waiting. If you see right here, we're going to see buyers, we're going to see days on market, and you're going to see the change from week over week. We've dropped down in the past 2 weeks by 2 weeks for our median and 10 days, so like a week and a half for our average. That being said, that is showing that there are buyers out there, they're waiting to buy. This is also indicative where the number that are going pending with a price reduction has gone down. We went down almost, over 7.5%, meaning buyers are starting to buy the houses that come on the market immediately. We're not seeing as many with the price reduction. It's going to go down. So if this number keeps going down, the closer it gets, that's going to show you, and the lower that these numbers get, that's showing you that buyers are out there buying immediately. So if there's a new house that you like that comes on the market, you need to see it. immediately. Now, if there's a house that's been sitting on the market for a long time, it may be to your advantage when it comes to negotiations, but the sooner you negotiate, the better, because buyers are starting to kind of wake up and come back out there. If we kind of look at last year's, very, very similar for the number of listings with the price reduction. Now, hopping in, this is our leading indicator. So what I say is our leading indicators are going to be, when we start looking at the month, our leading indicators are going to be, hey, what is pending? That's showing the buyer activity. Our lagging indicators are going to be what is closed in the past 30 days. It's showing us, hey, there's been some activity. What have people done? But if I'm looking and I'm basing on my house just purely on these past 30 days, I'm ignoring what people are out there and what people are buying. So right now, we did see a slight uptick in the number of houses that it closed. So you see 15 more than 2 weeks. Nothing dramatic. You're seeing the sales price actually have gone down. So these are people that maybe got under contract either at the end of December and they're taking 45 days to close out, or beginning of January when we did not see as many buyers. So if you bought and you're closed in February, it looks like you're doing a phenomenal job if you're a buyer. If you're a seller, maybe it was in your best interest to just kind of get the house and move the house because of your next house or where you're moving to next, and it suits you better. But what we did see is we did see an overall decline in closed to list price and closed to original list price. So you're seeing that houses were selling anywhere from 7 to 10% under their original list price. And that's right here. So you see close to original list price, it was at like 90.8, so 91%. Close to original list price, the median, we're looking at about 7% under at 93%. But you're seeing close to list price, the average and the median. Interesting enough, the median stayed the same at 97%. The average went down just a slight bit to 95.97. Now, as these pendings go to closure, and if we start seeing these numbers tick up, that's kind of a, hey, sellers, pay attention, look in your area. Are people buying in your area? Does it make sense to list? And these are general numbers. You really, 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 really got to know your area for both buyer and sellers. You have to know what the inventory is like, how our house is moving. Just because you see on Zillow, Realtor.com, you might see houses and stuff like that, doesn't mean you have the full details, because we're a non-disclosure state. You're never going to see what the price of a home that sells unless you were talking to a real estate professional who can go and see what is happening on the back end. In Texas, you're not going to find it. You have to have a real estate professional that can pull this information and this data for you. So with that being said, we are going to hop over. And if you're watching, please feel free to, I say, like, subscribe. Also leave a comment too. This is live. If you're watching it live, I can answer your questions right now. If you have any about a specific area or zip code, we can talk about that. That being said, you can also shoot me a message. You can find me at Austin Realtor on X, www.theonerealty.com on just, I say online. And you can also find me at Austin Real Estate on YouTube. So with that, we are going to look at where we were year over year for this. So we're going to see that we've closed a few more houses this year, but our prices compared to last year, we're way down. So if you're a seller, you might need to be holding off watching the market. If you're a buyer, this is good news for you. So we're going to hop into our monthly data. So for monthly data, I'm not even going to touch February's, because February's is still, we don't have a lot of the closings out. And really it's just, I can talk general data, but I'm going to talk about January. Now, we are only at the 12th of February. Typically, we'll see numbers continue to stroll in over the next week or two as far as them closing out by agents and by builders, and we're seeing the number. Right now, if we compare it to where we were last year, so this is all of our year over year comparison. This is our numbers for January of this year, January for last year, and then we'll talk about some historical data. That being said, if we are looking at our our year over year data, we've got 6 fewer homes sold than last year. We're probably going to beat that. I have a feeling that there's at least 6 agents or builders out there that have not closed it out. What we are seeing year over year, about less than 1% lower as far as our average sales price. Our median sales price is actually up 1.63% year over year. That was kind of a little bit of a surprise there. And then days on market were down a little bit for days on market, but nothing really drastic, especially if we look at close to list price. All of these numbers very similar to last year's January. So these were the houses that went under contract in December that probably closed out in January. That being said, this past December, when it came to the number of pendings and watching activity, it felt like there was a lot more activity that we were seeing unexpectedly in December of this year. And that was probably related to the decrease in interest rates. Now, if we look over month, I mean, we just got destroyed, and we're probably not going to beat our month over month as far as our numbers, because builders offer a lot of incentives for the end of the year, as well as sellers that want to sell and get it sold before the end of the year because of tax purposes, different things like that. Really make a deal if they can close out by the end of the year. So we can see that, hey, we're down like 288 houses, fewer houses sold in January than they did December. And you're going to see these numbers month over month. This January's number, so our average sales price in January at $766,000. Our median was $575,000. If we compare that to month over month to where we were in December, you're going to see that we are, almost 7% under for our average compared to where we were in December of 25, and about 2% under, 1.7% under 10K on our average. Interesting enough, though, our close to original list price was 1% higher. That's not really telling a huge story, but that's the median. But it was showing that there was some sort of activity that was happening. Now, the bigger thing that I also like to look at is where are we historically, and sorry, that should say January, and I'll change that. Where are we for historical sales? So the average sale historically in January is 602. The median is 595. The highest we have sold since 2005 was just shy of 1,948. So where are we historically? We're a little bit under 30% at 27.57%. They'll probably go up. I bet we'll end up about 25% underneath the historical average as far as homes closing out in Austin. So with that, just saying, if you're just joining me, kind of a recap of what we're talking about is number one, first and foremost, our listings, the number of listings that we had in January, as far as the total, or in February, as far as our total inventory, we're up year over year, meaning we have more houses this February than we did last year. However, in January, we had fewer listings come to the market. Overall in Austin, we're sitting about 5.22 months worth of supply. Depending on what price point you're at and what area you are at. I know there's some areas that have like a month and a half of supply, which is very, very shocking. If we go into the 1.4 million plus into the luxury, you are looking at like over 8 months worth of supply out there. We have started to see pickup. We have started to see in the number of pendings, and that's kind of where I showed you that data before of the number of pendings year over year. So we're doing weeklies of plus 200, 212 this past week. If we look back at 2005, where we were in like the 170s, 180s. So we are seeing more buyers out there. We're seeing our pending days on market going down, meaning buyers are getting under contract on new houses that are coming to the market. There is some activity. Really, it's going to be, we're seeing leading indicators that our market is picking up. It's really going to be kind of in the next like 2 weeks that we're going to see the sales data that's going to be reflective of that. Our houses closing out closer to their original list price. That's going to essentially take a turn and propel the pricing in the market to go up. If we're still seeing that sellers are giving deals, that will kind of change things. So with that, my name is Danielle Fountain. I'm the founder of the One Realty here in Austin, Texas, where I like to take a data-driven, all-in-one approach to buying and selling real estate. Really like to get into some nitty-gritty, I say numbers and details, but at the same time, to really find houses that, number one, fit your lifestyle and kind of where you see yourself in 5 to 7 years, or if you were selling, to fit where your goal is for selling. What are you going to do next? Is it imperative to sell it immediately? Is it better to hold and to rent it out? To kind of talk through those discussions versus just saying list your house, because that is not always the case. So with that, I'm Danielle Marie from the One Realty here in Austin, Texas. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. You can find me at Austin Realtor on X. You can find me at Danielle_Taylor_Fountain. On Instagram, you can find me at my website, www.theonerealty.com, or you can find me at Austin Real Estate on YouTube. So with that, have a wonderful day, and I look forward to talking with you.